Hello and welcome back to the Ossus Academy, radiation-free for 2,000 years and counting. I'm Evan, and I'm joined by Joe.
Hey.
Hey, we are gonna get schooled in this masterclass by Leo.
Yay.
Yay! But before we get to that, we of course need to just go ahead and say that this master class, that's because I can't call it like a session or a lesson. It's a master class. Every single episode of this is like what you see the advertisement for on YouTube, is brought to you by patrons like you. Head over to patreon.com/thejodocast for more information on that, or go to jodocast.com to find all of our audio, video, and written releases, our Legion Builder app, links to all of our social media sites, and most importantly, the link to our Discord server. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Professor Leo.
Okay.
You're so thrilled. Did you just get tenure and you're like, I guess I got to do this now?
Yeah. I always feel like these must be like our least popular episodes.
And yet they're the ones.
Because everyone has to listen to me so much. And every time I listen to one of our episodes, I always want me to shut up. I hate my voice.
Is somebody kicking a door?
What?
It suddenly stopped.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard the. It was like a thumper. Someone set up a thumper to attract a worm.
Okay. That?
Yes.
Yep.
That's the wheel on my mouse.
Oh.
I would have sworn you were like kicking a child or something. But no, like whenever we get like messaged by a listener of like, hey, are you going to bring back XYZ show? It's always Ossus. There is cheering in the streets when a new Ossus comes out. So do not sell yourself short, young man.
All right, well.
This is free education. You can't just get that anywhere.
Yeah, this is, we are an example of what Bernie Sanders can bring to America.
Okay, well, if everyone's eardrums feel like they can handle it, I guess we'll jump into it. And today we're going to talk a little bit about droids of the Confederacy.
Boo, Confederacy.
And obviously we're not talking about, like, the American Confederacy. That would be a crazy, like, alternate timeline story where, like, the Confederacy's got, like, robots.
That sounds like a nice weird war RPG to do.
But anyways, we've got the Clone Wars is going to be being released for Legion very soon. And so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of the lesser known droids that the Separatists have. Because, I mean, everyone knows B-1 battle droids and super battle droids, vulture droids, and Magna Guards, things like that. The stuff that we see a lot of in the movies and everyone's pretty familiar with. But they had so many different types of droids. And this is probably some of the longest bits of notes I've written up in a long time for an Ossus episode. And even still, we're not going to be covering them all by any means. So I apologize if your favorite random droid got left out. This is just sort of like ones that I thought were either more on the obscure side or just ones that I thought were kind of funny or interesting.
Sharktacons, did they make it?
No, sorry.
Okay.
I just left out everything to do with the quintessence.
That's probably for the best.
So to start with, Now these did actually appear in the movies, but I did want to just talk a little bit about the OOM droids versus the B1 droids, because they look exactly the same essentially, and most people don't even realize that there's a difference. But in episode 1, we did actually see a lot of the OOM series battle droids. Pretty much mostly these we saw on the actual Trade Federation command ships. They would have been the ones that had different colored paint jobs, like red for security, blue for pilot, yellow for command. They generally had more advanced processors than just the standard B1s, because they had to do a little bit more specialized jobs than just follow the orders of the command ship. So yeah, just one little thing where they were technically different models of droids, but most people just didn't realize that.
I sure did not.
Didn't.
Well, there you go.
It's different. It's just they're more specialized. It's got nothing to do with the command ship versus internal whatever.
Yeah, basically. I mean, because there were some, I believe there were some like command droids down on the surface, like in the tanks and stuff.
Like the one that was reporting up to the Neimoidians when they hit planetfall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was like, we'll find them in the jungle, sir.
Yeah, so I mean, they did do more than just to be on the command ship. It's just, and the command ship is primarily where we saw them during the movie. But I mean, we did see them elsewhere later. Like I believe there were some of the blue pilot ones were like on the bridge of Grievous's ship in episode 3.
Well, I'm wondering if the difference has anything to do with them. You know, you blow up the command ship and now your whole army's dead, versus they fixed that issue in later models.
No. This, I mean, they were still slave to the command ship, just like the B1s were in episode 1. It was only post episode 1 that they took care of that for both models, the B1s and the OOMs. And so there are, besides the OOMs, there's a ton of other B1 variants. I'm not going to get into all of them again, but some that I did want to talk about is, well, first there's the 631 B1s. I don't know why they were called 631, but they were notable for being dumber and clumsier than a standard B1 droid. So
it's not a...
Why did they...
It's already a pretty low bar.
Why do they even exist? I don't know. They were like, they only ever appeared in one episode of Clone Wars, and they were pretty much just comic relief. Like
which episode, and why were they specifically noted as different?
Like even the other B1s looked at them with scorn.
Huh. Do you know which episode it was?
Not off the top of my head. In fact, I believe the plot was like they give something to one of these droids and he's supposed to carry it somewhere and he drops it and breaks it, and because he's an idiot. Wow. It's you know, it's whatever. But I just find the idea that somebody thought it was a great idea to make an even dumber model of B1. There were grappler model B1s, and they had these big, beefy, like Popeye forearms, with these like big old claw hands on them that were meant to get into melee combat, and they were also made out of some kind of material that could actually withstand lightsabers. So they were sort of one of the first attempts to combat Jedi with these. And I guess if you somehow missed seeing their big giant hands, you would be able to tell the difference, because they were generally like a dark gray color instead of like a standard B1 tan brown. There were heavy battle droids, which you can actually play as in Battlefront. Mostly the biggest difference is that they had the shield emitter installed in their chest, so they could emit, so they could have their little personal shield. There was the firefighter B1s.
These are the best ones.
They are the best one. They were, I don't know, I guess I would have thought that they would have been more part of like the OOM series, since they're programmed to do a pretty specialized job, and that's fight fires. But yeah, so they were generally stationed aboard capital ships and stuff like that to put out fires when they would start. They had a pretty cool black and yellow paint scheme, so then they look like a firefighter. And they had a big old backpack. I don't know what was in the backpack, but it was a big backpack.
Firefighty stuff.
Yes. And I should also mention we're going to be pulling a lot of stuff from Legends too, because there was some really crazy droid variants in Legends. Like that grappler one I just mentioned, I think was from some mobile game or something that.
There was a lot from Legends I didn't bother recommending to you, like the Buzzsaw droid, which is just a battle droid with a bunch of like saw blades.
Kind of seems like some of those Legends droids were being developed by Dr. Wily. He just started putting things on them and seeing what worked.
The one last B1 variant I wanted to mention about, because I thought it was visually really cool, was the D-Wing air support droid, which the B1s were sort of already made to kind of resemble the Geonosians who built and designed them. But these ones look even more Geonosian, because they have like the I forget what it's even called, when the how their legs cock different than ours. But anyways,
grasshopper legs.
Yeah, so they have legs articulated like that rather than quote unquote standard humanoid legs like other B1s. But then they also have wings that fold out wings on their back that would give them flight capabilities. So yeah, very Geonosian looking then. And so then there was also a ton of variants of B2 super battle droids, but like almost there's like 90% of those variants are all just like have to do with whatever kind of gun they happen to have bolted on their arm. They would call that a different variant, So I'm not going to go through and just be like, this one has a flamethrower, this one's got a blah, 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 whatever. They're all basically the same droid. But the B2s did have a grappler model, much like the B1s. And the B2s were, the B2 grapplers were actually specifically designed by General Grievous for use to fight the Jedi during their invasion of Coruscant. So, fun fact about them. And then there's the most longest named droid of them all, the Super Battle Droid Rocket Trooper, which is...
that's not as long as I was expecting.
Well, it's not so much that it's really long. It's just it's all. I don't know. It's like when you meet a person who has like 3 first names as their name. It's kind of like that. It's just I don't know. It all felt like it went on too long for me. But yeah, it's basically an upgraded version of the of just the B2 rocket trooper, that the B2RP that everyone's seen, like in Clone Wars, or if you play Battlefront, you can play as that guy. And they basically, they didn't come out till very near the end of the war, and they've got big, huge, like rocket thrusters, like World of Warcraft style shoulder pauldrons, and that would give them increased flight time over some of the other ones, and 8 different wrist-mounted blaster cannons. But yeah, because they didn't come out till near the end of the war, there not very many of them were ever made. And that's kind of going to be a common theme we're going to run into, is a lot of these, the story behind them is, oh, well, they didn't invent these until almost the end of the war, so only like 5 of them were ever made. And that's why you never see a bunch of them. That
feels kind of, like an easy way out for, why did we see more of these? But then again, I mean, if you look at World War II, there was all sorts of crazy weapons that just didn't quite make it because the war ended.
Yeah. So these guys, I kind of debated whether to include them or not. The BX series commando droids, because they do show up in like Battlefront and stuff, and they do show up in the Clone Wars also, if I remember right?
A lot.
Yeah, exactly. They're in there a bunch. So, but still, they're pretty neat. So, the thing that I think is the neatest about them, I mean, well, they're already programmed to be smarter, more agile, faster than either B1s or B2s. But the thing I think is neat about them is, looks-wise, they're almost the same as a B1, except they have a smaller head. And they were designed this way partially so they could put on clone armor and sneak around. So, and
they also
even
don't have backpacks.
Yes, exactly. And they could even alter their voices to sound like clones, which
it's one of my favorite little, I don't know what you want to call it, a goof or whatever. They knew about it when they did the episode, but the episode where they put on clone armor, so if you look at their hands, it's kind of like 2 big fingers and like a little finger, I believe, because I think they have the same kind of hand as the regular B1s.
Yeah, I think so.
But in the episode where they put on clone trooper armor, all of a sudden they have very human hands. And there's no way that their normal hand would fit into the clone trooper glove.
Maybe their fingers split apart like General Grievous's arms.
That must be it.
It makes sense. So they're kind of neat, but they're probably more well known to listeners. But again, I just think the way they were designed for infiltration like that is pretty cool. There is actually several different really cool like infiltration type droids that the Separatists had that we'll be talking about a little bit more here. But first, since we're counting down the different B series, I wanted to mention the B3 Ultra battle droids.
Ultra.
Yes. Which were basically just like a double-sized B2 battle droid. Like they were like 4 meters tall. So they were huge. Ultra, yes.
It honestly sounds like they're being designed by Capcom at this point.
They were the 90s extreme version of battle droids.
Super Battle Droid Turbo 2 Alpha Tournament Edition.
And so they had 2 like normal arms. Well, I guess I should say like normal size arms for their body. I mean, obviously there were huge arms, but normal size for their body. And those had like flamethrowers and plasma cannons on them. And then Alien Queen style, it had like 2 smaller arms down underneath, sort of coming out of the middle of its torso. And so it was like, and these were like regular size, like B2 battle droid arms. So they were, I don't know, they were kind of goofy looking. They also had big old spikes on their feet, which were weird.
Good for kicking?
No, because it was more like they were like on their calves. So it was like
a chicken spur?
Sorta, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't really say like it, not like a chicken spur, because they were up higher, like on their calves. I don't know. So anyways, B3 battle droids, just giant B2s. So going back again to some other commando droids, there was the V2 series droids. The V2 commando droids were kind of strange. There wasn't a lot of them made, but they were basically a B2 series body with a BX model head stuck on them. So they were similar to the BX models in programming and stuff like that, but the larger body meant that they weren't really good for like infiltration missions or stuff like that. Instead, these guys specialized in the use of explosives to complete their missions, and because of the specialized explosives programming, they were also often used as like bomb disposal units and things like that.
Huh. I never heard of those guys.
Well, there you go. So droidicas came in 3 different varieties: the P, the W, and the Q series, which we saw these 3 different varieties in The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, respectively.
I have a question.
What?
When in the first time you ever saw Phantom Menace and possibly subsequent viewings, what did you think Newt Gunray was saying when he was saying send in like the droidicas? Droidicas.
I don't know.
It was like as a kid I thought it was like 2 words, droid and then like cars.
No. I guess I thought it was like droidica, but I just always assumed it was like some weird like Nemodian word for their droids, because immediately after that, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon refer to them,
And Qui-Gon.
refer to them as destroyer droids.
Yeah,
so I was
Master
just like,
Destroyers.
So I was just all like, oh, well, this droidica is just like the Nemodian word for destroyer droid.
Yeah, which would make some degree of sense.
So anyways, but those 3 varieties we're not really going to talk about because they're basically the exact same thing. Just the really minor upgrades, like, the shield generators got a little bit more powerful or whatever. And then visually they did change just a little bit between each movie or whatever. Yeah. As one of our patrons says, they were this year's model. Some actual different variants of droidicas would include, like, there was the sharpshooter droidica, which was, as you would expect from the name, a droidica that specialized in sniping. So rather than, it didn't have the arm guns on the side, on either side. Instead, it just had like one big cannon, sort of in the center, coming out of its chest, kind of.
Yeah, I remember that one from the show.
There was the droidica oppressor, which was basically the droidica with more powerful blaster cannons on its arms. Again, it was a model that came out near the very end of the war, so didn't see much.
Was this from like a video game? This sounds like something from a game
Yes,
that took place.
It does sound like that.
Yeah, I believe
Like,
that.
let's put a droidica in our game for fighting stormtroopers, but this was another one.
Yeah. This was one from a game. Can't remember off the top of my head which
I
one.
feel like it might have been Empire at War.
Yeah, there was also the Droidica Mark II, which, like the Oppressor, was a variant that didn't come out till near the end of the war. But this guy had basically on each arm had 4 guns instead of 2. So rather than putting more powerful cannons on the arms, they just put more on the arms.
These both sound like a General Wise creation.
Yes, and then like the Ultra Battle Droid, there were also Ultra Droidicas, which were just
Ultra.
double-sized Droidicas.
Oh, yep, the Droidica Mark II its only appearance was in Star Wars Empire at War. It looks cool. It looks like it's kind of like a lounge chair that'll kill you. I almost get a little bit of a hedonism vibe just because it looks like it's reclined.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a thing though with Droidicas. I mean, because they're designed by the Colicoids and like all the different Droidica models look like them. I mean, and the Colicoids basically look like a recliner with a head and legs.
Allegedly, I just clicked on. I clicked on their language. Never mind. What do they look like? Oh, you're right. I had no idea that they were some people who made droids.
Yeah. Well, now you do know.
Wow. Good thing I came to class. I'm learning so much.
So speaking of them, besides the Droidicas, they also did produce several other droids for the Separatists. And they all, again, because they're sort of based on the look of the Colicoids, they all sort of visually have a similar look. Like there was the Grenadier droid, which, wasn't designed to roll into wheel mode like a Droidica was, but it had the same 4-legged stance and stuff like that. Where instead of having like the dual blasters where it would have arms, it had a pair of grenade launchers. But for some reason, these guys were too dumb to walk and fire their grenades at the same time. So, whatever.
I just shared with the patrons who are listening right now what my only real reference for Colicoids is, and that's the Colicoid Wargame Flashpoint from SWTOR. I did not know that those were related.
Colicoid sounds like a Polaroid rival brand that went out of business in the 80s or something.
Like Protendo and BalicoVision.
Let's see. Oh yeah, there was also the T4 turret droid, which is similar to the Grenadier droid, but it's got lasers instead of grenade launchers, and it was smart enough to actually walk around at the same time as it was shooting.
Oh.
So hey, they're stepping up here. I believe the Grenadier droid showed up in a Game Boy game. And the T4 turret droid was in Jedi Power Battles on the PlayStation, I think. So let's see, what else was there? There was this is one that I thought was really cool. Was the Colicoid infiltrator droid, which was a droid that specialized in assassination. So its 4 legs were multi-jointed, so they could be bent up into all kinds of shapes. And then its 2 arms, just rather than having like blasters or even hands, it didn't even have hands. It just had 2 big knives on the end of its arms.
He's like, I'm gonna stab you. Gonna get you. And it's gonna scuttle up to you. It looks like kind of like Grievous coming at you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Knives. It would be terrifying to see one of these things coming at you, and then their head is shaped very similar to like a battle droid, or I mean not a battle droid, but like a destroyer droid head. It's got like sort of that curved look, and then like the 3 like red eye stalk sort of. As it's a creepy looking droid, and I like that about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. The one picture I'm looking at, it looks like he's just sitting there. It's like, oh, it's been too long since I stabbed somebody. Gotta stab.
So typically, what they would do is like they would land on the hull of a ship, burrow their way right through the hull, and then seal the hole behind them before any like atmosphere loss alarms could go off or anything like that. And then using a built-in holo projector, they would disguise themselves basically as like a member of the crew, and then just sneak around and just murder people. And which, I mean, that sounds like the plot of a great like horror movie. So, you know, if they want to make like a Star Wars anthology movie
with
that's just...
Mace Windu, I'm sick of these Infiltrator series droids.
So yeah, but because of the nature of these missions and the fact that they had to operate basically independently, they had like really advanced processors, specialized processors, but this because they were so advanced, they tended to occasionally like rebel and like go against their programming or ignore orders given to them.
Stop stabbing! No, gotta stab.
Yeah,
stop.
Actually, that was like a thing. Is sometimes they would just, you know, they would just sort of ignore orders and be like, "Nah, I'm just gonna murder things."
Infiltrator droids will be infiltrator droids.
Yep. The last of the colicoid droids I want to talk about is the Scorpinek Annihilator droid, which I think is a pretty badass name.
Scorpinek
Annihilator. Better than the old.
It sounds like the first boss from Final Fantasy VII.
Ask your parents' permission before purchasing.
But so it was kind of like a extra large version of a Droideka, only no wheel configuration. It was just, it could only walk. And then it was also able to project a much larger and heavier shield than a standard Droideka would. So these smaller Droidekas would often group around and position themselves inside the Scorpinek shield, basically giving them double protection. So you'd have like shield overlap, which could lead to some like really tanky fire.
Looks like a mother goose. And
yeah.
Babies. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not feeling the design on this one. It looks
yeah, so it was
it's because the renders are like weird early 2000s CG.
Yeah, so they were actually supposed to look like like the name Scorpinek was actually, it's a kind of animal. I assume like on the colicoid's homeworld. So it's supposed to look like some kind of animal.
It kind of does look like a scorpion if it didn't have a tail, which is the defining feature of a scorpion. The guns on it actually, to me, look like the top part of a Stap speeder with the two guns.
Oh yeah, kind of.
So it's just kind of like a guy on legs who's going, hey, with his arms up and four guns.
The best part, though, about these guys is they've got that one big, huge red eye in the center of them that is like a crazy sensitive weak point for them. Like basically any damage to that eye can completely disable the whole unit.
It looks like a shoot me here point.
Pretty much. The design is actually based off of some concept art from Attack of the Clones, for like, you know, when they were trying to come up with some different droid designs for what was going to appear on Geonosis during the big battle. This was one of the bits of concept art that never actually ended up making it into the final production, but they decided to reuse it for this model here.
The Scorpinek stopped working. What's wrong? Sorry, got a smudge on the lens. Let me go wipe it out.
So moving on to and now we're just kind of going to be picking up a few kind of random droids here and there. There's the LR-57 combat droid, which is basically, it's like a big barrel with legs and guns.
It's a real dumb looking droid.
It's like if Thomas the Tank Engine grew legs, it would be this droid.
And not had a couple years of math, not too many. It's kind of it looks like like it would work in a factory, not be a battle machine.
I love that. Okay, so they were also sometimes known as retail droids, which is like gotta be the worst name, because they belong to the Retail Caucus, which was apparently part of the Federation or Confederacy, not the Federation, the Confederacy. I mean, and I get that it's all like. A lot of them are like businesses and stuff like that, like the Trade Federation and the baking clans or whatever. The Retail Caucus.
I thought you said the baking clan.
It's the baking clan. Martha Stewart is the leader.
Yeah, the Retail Caucus. I just picture it's like J.C. Penney and like Kohl's and
right. Well, what other members of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, like these businesses that are siding with them, there would be like the used car salesman alliance, and
yeah, they don't like the Republic like imposing regulations and like that they have to make sure their used cars are like safe and stuff. They don't like the Republic's lemon laws, so they're
and probably the gun industry.
And Retail Caucus is just funny.
Yeah.
The discount division.
They clearly got these ugly droids on discount.
I do have one of them makes me sad though. That droid model makes me sad because they barely appear in any episodes of Clone Wars, but the one A Friend in Need, the Mandalorians are using one of them as target practice, and it goes up to R2. It's like repair us. And it's like, oh man, that's depressing.
Yeah, no, these guys were actually based off of some really early concept art for droidicas. Some early concept art that was developed during pre-production for episode 1, and like I've said before, there's usually a reason that designs go unused, and this is a perfect example of that.
The Retail Caucus and the Baking Clan. The banking clan would sign your treaty, and we would contribute these cupcakes.
There was chameleon droids. Chameleon droids were
Come on.
yes. I believe these showed up in the one of the Gendy Clone Wars episodes. But they were originally destroyed as mining, like exploration droids meant to go down into caves and stuff like that, by Aricad Industries, which is the same company that designed the probe droids you see in Empire Strikes Back. So they look somewhat similar. They kind of have that same like disc-shaped head, but they've got and like the articulated arms and stuff like that. But yeah, so they were originally just meant as like these cave spelunking droids. But after the war broke out, they were upgraded with laser cannons, mines, and hollow projectors. And kind of like their strategy that they would use is they would mine an area and then use the hollow projectors to disguise themselves, to hide. Basically, they would project whatever was behind them in front of them, so you couldn't see them. And then once the enemies arrived, they would use their laser cannons, not necessarily to kill the whatever they were firing at. I mean, obviously they would try and do that, but it was more that they were trying to herd their enemies into where they laid this minefield then.
I don't like the name.
Well, fine. Call them spelunking droids. That's what they were called before the war came out.
Oh, I see.
And as long as we're on the topic of explosives, there's also demolition droids. These ones you pointed out to me, that they were these little droids that were designed to look like the sweeper droids, these little like cleaning droids that were used on like Republic bases and starships and stuff. So they could sneak into these areas disguised as just a little tiny cleaning droid, and then once they got to wherever they were trying to get to, they could transform into a more humanoid form, which then had blasters and explosive charges, and then they would, do whatever.
They none of them survived. Yeah, I think they were in one episode, and the little Roomba guys go in, and they're like, "Oh, it's the cleaning droids," and then all of a sudden, everybody's dead, and they blow themselves up.
Yeah.
I think Grievous is briefing them for whatever reason. He needs to give them like an in-person briefing. He's like, "You guys are probably not. No, you're all gonna die."
Let's see. I wanted to talk a little bit about IG series droids. There's
tell. I feel like we could have a whole episode on IG droids.
Yeah,
maybe one day.
I think didn't we? Did we do an old one about IG-88? Or was
I
it?
think we did an old episode on like the different levels of droids. I think.
Because I seem to remember we spent a while talking about like IG-88, A, B, C, and D.
Oh yeah, because that was still a thing at the time.
Yeah. But anyways. But yeah, there's quite a lot of different IGs out there. We're getting, was it IG-11 soon here in Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. He seems cool.
Yeah. There was quite a few in the Clone Wars show. I think it was like 86.
Yeah. But
the ones from the Gendy series that were on the speeder bikes, they were never like made a thing. I think that was just something cool for that show.
No, they did appear again in the Darth Maul the comic, the one that's
official?
Yeah, the one that's canon.
Oh, really? Son of Dathomir?
Which one? There's a couple Darth Maul ones.
Wasn't it Son of Dathomir?
The last Dark Horse one, I think, is what you're referring to, Leo.
Son of Dathomir was the last Dark Horse one, which is canon. Yeah. It has been republished by Marvel. The Lancer Droid appears
there we go. I couldn't. Yeah.
Just Darth
so, anyways,
Maul.
yeah.
So the more recent Marvel one.
They've made a comeback. So
okay.
So yeah. So everyone knows IG-88. Everyone knows IG-100 Magna Guards. But yeah, there's some like we said, like the IG Lancers.
Wow.
Those ones showed up in the Gendy cartoon originally, and they're kind of goofy though. I mean,
I love it because it's like, all right, should we use guns? Nope. You're just gonna hold some lances and run at them with your speeder bikes, and you're gonna mess them up.
Yeah, so,
should we shoot them? No,
they look
not
cool,
shooting them.
but they seem a little impractical.
Visually, they're essentially just the IG model you already know, but with a pointy head and pointy shoulders. I think that's the only difference.
There was also IG-110 lightsaber droids, which were basically like an upgraded version of Magna Guards. And they were, but instead of like the Electro Staff, these guys actually wielded lightsabers. And they are depicted as wielding red lightsabers. And I guess since technically they're legends, that's not that big a deal. Because then back in Legends, it was just synthetic crystals that the red lightsabers had. But instead, I like to imagine them as being canon because I really like the idea of like Dooku just having to sit around like corrupting a bunch of saber crystals to give to these droids.
They're just waiting in line, like tapping their feet, like come on.
he's just standing there waiting while the lion goes, grabs a crystal, flop. Good. Next one. Flop. Next
and then
one.
like he like looks up and the droids are like looking away because they don't want. Do you think a Sith has ever
Look away.
like accidentally ripped apart while corrupting a lightsaber crystal?
Or just like in a Sith or a Jedi in general, like could you imagine them like
They have to have.
you know, straining like when both Kylo and Rey are like pulling on the lightsaber with the Force.
Or when
You know, like
Luke is trying to get his X-wing out of the swamp.
yeah. Or well, we've already done this before, but you know, when Kylo's trying to like you know, read your mind
That's
when you're in the
different.
torture chair.
He's forcing them to try it. I'm just assuming that the sound editors goofed and left out all the fart noises in those scenes.
Yeah.
Of course they did. Okay, last droids here is a couple water droids because the Separatists even had a bunch of droids that were specialized in underwater combat. The main two that we ever saw of these were one, there was the Aqua Droids, which we saw in the Mon Calamari episodes with our boy Prince Lichar. So these droids look, you know, they have the body kind of like a B2 droid, but not quite the same, just similar. But like their feet could convert into propellers, and they had like their heads could retract into their bodies to reduce drag while they're swimming around and stuff. And they could also, you know, fold up into racks and, you know, be stored kind of like B1 droids. So that's cool. And there was also Manta Droid Subfighters, which were basically, they were based on the Vulture Droid design. And so they're basically a submersible fighter that was originally supposed to have like the capability to transform. Like that was sort of like the original design parameters. But they had way too much trouble with the transforming when they were in like deep ocean pressures and stuff like that. So in the end, they had to scrap the whole transforming thing, which I think would have been kind of cool to see, like these subs come like, you know, cruising up, and then all of a sudden they transform and latch on to like, you know, some ship or like Mon Calamari building or something like that. Sad. But yeah, it was so it kind of looks like the cockpit of a Vulture droid with like a big fin in the front of it. So yeah, and they were pretty fast, agile underwater, and then they could kind of. Actually, you know what? The best way would probably be like if you took like that round like half circle part from the front of like the AAT tank.
Oh yeah.
And then you stuck a Vulture droid cockpit on that.
And then you added like a handle.
Yeah. But yeah, so they could be equipped with laser cannons or torpedo launchers and, you know, blow stuff up.
That's pretty neat.
And yeah. And so
they're a
I
cool
think,
red
you
color.
know, that yes. And again, I believe they also appeared in the Genndy Clone Wars. So
Looks like it.
So yet another reason to give them a mention, because the Genndy Clone Wars is the best Clone Wars.
That one wasn't a droid, that was just a ship all the droids were in. I think one of my favorite weird things from that show is that huge, like, stamper that the droids have that Mace Windu blows up. It's just a big block that hovers over the countryside and a big, like, cylinder slams down on the ground to like
Oh.
earthquake everybody or something. It's ridiculous.
It's a very Gendy Tartakovsky sort of design. Like it's something that when I would see that, I could imagine seeing that same thing on like Samurai Jack.
Although it's not too far away from the Dark Empire, just giant vacuum cleaners.
Well,
those things are so
I mean, they were called World Devastators, guys, and they were cool.
Thought it was called Mega Maid.
Ultra vacuum. Has the Roomba Corporation gone too far? More to living.
The Roomba Corporation will sign your treaty count.
But I think so. Yeah, so that kind of covers all the different droids I wanted to talk about. Like I said, there's a ton more out there, but like I said, they were either like they were pretty common. Like we saw a lot of them. I mean, we could have got into like tactical droids, and like I said, there was even more B1 variants and B2 variants and stuff like that. But you know, in Legends, there was these weird like Mandalorian droids that looked like 3PO units, but they were like battle droids, and they were like the dumbest looking things. I didn't even want to.
What is that? Is that the BL series Battle Legionnaire I'm looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah, looks pretty lame. Oh,
yeah,
the first appearance was
they,
in the series Droids.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
I think most of them are things you'd recognize if you saw. The ones, I think the big ones that got left out, which are mostly just big vehicles, like the the Octoptara tri-droid, or like the little crab droids, or the bigger crab droids, or the medium-sized crab droids.
Yeah, exactly. And like some of like the little like wheeled tank things and stuff like that, you know, it's like, you know, we didn't need to talk about those guys because everyone just, I mean, they've been in the movies and stuff.
It's a battle droid called Upgraded Battle Droid.
Yeah.
Well, I learned a lot. How about you, Evan?
I learned so much. I feel enlightened. I feel like when the Clone Wars Legion stuff hits, I will come out with armies that no one has seen before.
Well, at the very least, when everybody inevitably goes, well, I bet they'll come out with this one next. What about this one? You can go, honestly, I would prefer to see the LR-57 combat droid come out as a support unit. And everyone will go, what's that? You're so smart. And then you can say, I listen to Ossus Academy.
No, what I'll do is I'll get onto some like Legion Facebook group or Discord and be like, so what would everyone's opinion be for doing stand-in stats for a Scorpionator Colicoid turret grenade droid? Obviously, I can't use the normal stats, so what would be good enough? What would be close?
Then everyone won't respond because they're so in awe of your lore knowledge.
Yeah. Obviously, the Grenadier droids, you would be able to equip grenade
but it would have a
them.
thing that said,
But-
oh, you can use this attack at range 1 to 3. Yeah.
3. Yeah, you could do it at range 1 to 3.
Yeah.
But it also has cumbersome. So if you move, you can't fire the weapon.
There you go.
High-res fantasy play.
So they were pretty crappy. That's the moral of the
Yep.
story. You could have that could be a swap out between the grenades and the turret.
Yeah.
There you go.
So there you go. Yeah, well, see, we're already starting to come up with some of these. Actually, I would love to see firefighter droids. I mean, they would be as like in like a personnel upgrade or something like that, in one of those upgrade packs with just extra extra guys, you can put in the personnel slot. I want to have just one firefighter B1.
It might be fun to
And,
just
like-
paint a whole squad to look like them, because they got a neat color scheme, and it's very obvious that they're firefighters. And give one of them a hose, or get one long thread so that the unit leader's holding the nozzle, and then everybody else is holding on to the same hose. And you just have to be careful when you're placing your guys that it doesn't get all tangled up. We'll have to homebrew the firefighter personnel upgrade. Does it just, when you're being attacked by a flamethrower, add 2 blocks to your defense result?
Yeah, something like that. The firefighter droid gives your unit immune to flamethrowers.
Or just choose one flamethrower mini or weapon at range 1 and kill that. It just gets it all gummed up with fire retardant goo.
If you get like the 631s, it's basically they're the exact same as the regular battle droids, but you can have up to like 10 or 11 of them in your unit. But they still only roll like 6 white dice for their attack. You have to have 2 minis to roll 1 white die. That's how shitty they are.
Or, no, they can be the same, but there's more of them, but they have a rule. It's essentially every move they take that's just any move is considered a clamber.
So
They're constantly at risk of just falling over and dying.
Okay. Well, I suppose at this point it's about time to...
I feel like we've learned a lot and should be expecting
Yes.
a call to join the Legion Dev team soon.
Any day now.
We'll just be the remote team. You know, we just send them.
They go,
our,
we don't know what to
our
do.
stuff."
Give us some ideas, quick. And be like, oh, I can...
Hey, if they'd pay me mileage, I would drive down to Roseville every day.
Or I mean, you could just stay the week there and come back on the weekend.
Yeah. Drive 4 hours to work,
Yeah.
work for 8 hours, and then drive 4 hours home. Seems doable to
Sure.
me.
do a lot
Why
of
not?
podcasting, or podcast listening.
Think of all the money I could make in mileage.
There you go.
Anyways,
Class dismissed.